Good afternoon. Welcome to the City event. I'm Andy, and today I'm joined by a very special guest. A lot of you will probably know who he is, and he's a scorer of one of the most famous goals at Valley Parade. Joined by none other than David Wetherall. How's it going, pal?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Andy.
Excellent. So yeah, thank you for coming on. Really appreciate it. Now, just want to sort of like talk through your career, see how you're getting on, see what you've been up to. So you signed for City for a then club record 1.4 mil from Leeds. That's right, isn't it?
That's right.
Yeah, and managed 304 appearances with 18 goals for City. How did that move come about?
I was obviously at Leeds at the time. David O'Leary was manager. I think he'd been there about a year, and it looked like the situation at Leeds was going to change really from a financial perspective. They were just on the verge of spending huge money on transfer fees, and also Jonathan Woodgate was just coming through and breaking through into the first team. So, the club were really straightforward with me and said that I wasn't going to be first choice. And really, when it's Jonathan Woodgate and Lucas Radebe, it's difficult to argue with, isn't it?
Fair enough, yeah.
So they gave me the option of moving on. I think I was late 20s, so I wanted to be playing, and looked around see what there was any interest, and I was right on the verge of going to Southampton.
Oh,
on the Friday, I had pretty much agreed to go to Southampton, then I just asked for the weekend to think about it. My wife was heavily pregnant with my second child, so we said just ask for the weekend to think about it. And then Bradford came in over the weekend, and spoke to Paul Jewell, and from a family perspective, it obviously worked, and I liked what Paul had to say, and was excited about joining the club. Obviously, it was a really different challenge at Leeds. I think I was there 8 years, and we'd been top 5, I think 5 times, something like that. So we were used to most seasons being at the other end of the top end of the table, if you like. You sort of knew coming into Bradford, the aim wasn't to qualify for Europe. It was really, still be a Premier League team at the start of the following season. And that first season went all right anyway.
It did go all right. You were actually the only player in the Premier League to play every single minute of Premier League football that season, which is pretty impressive in fairness. But how did that, because obviously, you've been with Leeds and you've been fighting at the top of the table. How did you have to change your game then when you had to go to like a team like Bradford that the aim was just to stay up?
I don't think personally I had to change anything. Really, I just think it was almost the approach to the results on a Saturday after the game. We knew that we weren't going to win every week. We knew that there was some defeats going to come, if we were being realistic about it.
Yeah.
But one thing we had in that first season, I think we're called Dad's Army in a lot of the press, is I was getting on at sort of 29, I suppose, being an experienced player at that time. But a lot of players who were a lot older than me.
You wanted younger ones, weren't you?
Exactly. Yeah. When there was a young behold on five-a-sides on a Friday morning, I was on the young team at 29.
Nah.
But what that gave us was experience. If we did lose a game, then we wouldn't let that carry over, if you like, into the next game. A lot of experience in the team meant we could approach that game fresh, and one way or another we just managed to do enough. But I don't think it was a case of changing my game. I always tried to help organise the defence, and I think I got into a good partnership with Andy O'Brien, and it was a pretty strong area of the team. I think in that first season we just struck up a really good understanding, got on well off the pitch as well, and he was probably at the other end of his career to some of the other guys we've just been talking about. He was one of the young ones in the team, but it was our games sort of gelled a little bit, I think, in the right way, and yeah, just try to help him along and talk people through, I suppose.
Yeah, and it did the job, obviously, because we stayed up, didn't we? So like, so you've gone from David O'Leary, who's a great manager in his own right at Leeds, and I'm going to get crucified for saying this on a Bradford City podcast because he was a good manager. And then you're going to work under Paul Jewell. Was there a big difference in the way they both approached the game, or?
I didn't have that much. I think David O'Leary was probably a year while I was there in charge. And yeah, there was a difference. There was a difference in the clubs, but every manager is different. You know, even at my managers that right through my career, there's no two approach it the same way. So yes, there was a difference. But I really enjoyed it at Bradford. I have I got to say first and foremost, first of all, there was no hard feelings at Leeds. You know, that's football. That's football. And it happens. I had a really enjoyable eight years there, and became a Premier League footballer in that time. So there's certainly no hard feelings towards Leeds whatsoever. And then coming over to Bradford, as I said earlier, it was just totally different. And Paul's approach was really different. Obviously, this was his first experience of the Premier League, if you like.
Yeah.
And he'd not been managing that long at Bradford in the Championship. So, just a really positive atmosphere and feel around the place when I first came over that first weekend, even before I'd signed. Really impressed with what Paul had to say and how we were going to approach it. And it showed. We achieved the goal that season when most people or virtually everybody had written us off. So Paul was doing a lot of good things there, getting a good team spirit and good organisation, and getting the most out of what he had at his disposal.
100%. So with the squad of players, then, who would you say were the live wires within that team that you had around you? Like, who were the naughty boys? Who were the guys that knuckled down, worst trainers, things like that?
I think when you talk about a dressing room, when people think, oh, it's a good dressing room and everyone's together, there's a tendency to think, oh, everybody's the same, because everybody likes the same things. There were totally different characters in that dressing room at Bradford, but everybody kind of got on. There was no real cliques, even though there were some really quiet people and then some people who you couldn't shut up. I mean, Dean Saunders, a prime example. If there's a traffic jam when you're on the coach on a 5-hour journey on a Friday, it wasn't a problem because Dean would just do a comedy sketch at the back for an hour and a half. But there are a lot of characters like that. But I'd say also a lot of quiet people. But I think what pulled everybody together was when you pulled the shirt on a Saturday afternoon, everybody knew that people at the side of you had got your back, and there was no questions about effort whatsoever in that in that first season. And I think that was the sort of spirit that got us through at that time. And I think that's what Paul was really after in that first season. It's one of the things that he spoke to me about, I think, in that first weekend was just we had to have that togetherness and spirit, because it was going to be a choppy journey. And this first season was a choppy journey. Got there, and then what happened after that was a bit more than choppy.
Well, we'll go into what happened after that. Yeah. Don't worry. So let's fast forward then to the day. Liverpool, we've got to win to stay up. There's ramifications up and down at the top and the bottom of the league for what happens. You're not known for scoring goals, and then you come and pull that out. I think it was like the 12th minute. We were early in the game, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And you just come and pull that head out. Like, run me through it. What were going through your mind?
Not a lot after I'd scored it. It was just, I think as much as anything, it just gave everyone that bit of belief. We knew it didn't matter if Wimbledon won at Southampton anyway. But I think the only thing we could control was what happened at Valley Parade, and we knew obviously the better result that we could get, the more chance we had of of staying up. So, although people were probably talking our chances up and having that belief, then or saying we got that belief, I think that getting a goal just added to it, and it gave us that really positive start and something to, I'll say, hang on to. But we played pretty well that day as a team, and it wasn't just a back to the wall job. We had a few other opportunities through the game as well, but I think, that was the thought really. Once things had settled down in maybe the 13th or 14th minute, and the place had got quiet again, and it was just, actually, we've got a chance here. This might happen, and it was a long afternoon. I know that.
Yeah, it was.
It was a long afternoon till that final whistle. I'm sure it was for people in the stands as well, who, at least we were fortunate out on the pitch. We could affect things, but just watching the game, it must have felt a long 90 minutes.
It were a horrible 90 minutes. I were only what, 10, 11 at the time, and being in stands for that, even for me being so young, like, there was all the excitement, but it took forever. It took forever. I'd preferred that goal scored in like 89th minute. I think that'd been better for us.
Yeah, same.
So did you think then, when that went in, did you think this is it, we're going to stay up, or are we still a bit umming and ahhing at that point, do you think?
You couldn't really think that, because it wasn't in our hands, and I think you go back to the weekend before that, we came off against Leicester and we'd lost, and I seem to remember that the Wimbledon game was still going on, and the report that we had was they were losing, and that would have meant that we were fourth bottom going into the last game, and we were delighted with that, but then they scored late on, and that meant that it tipped the balance. We were in the bottom three going into the last game, and in a strange way, I think that probably worked in our favour. That they probably looked at our game home to Liverpool, who, as you alluded to earlier, needed to win to get in the Champions League, and thought, Bradford have got no chance here.
Yeah.
So just subconsciously, it might have worked in our favour that they thought Liverpool would do the job for them, if you like. But we're just fortunate. It's one of those things in football. That's why football's such a great game. And it just occasionally there's a surprise happens, and it takes everybody by surprise. And that's the beauty of the game, isn't it?
Oh, 100%, 100%. So in that first season, then there were some pretty special players in the Premier League, across the Premier League as a division, and there were some of the younger lads coming through. Who were the best player you had to play against during that first season?
I think they were there in the first season. I can't remember specifically, but I always say, looking back, I think the combination of Henry and Bergkamp was, that's not bad, is it? That's not a bad pair. You ain't going to lose too many games if you got them up front for you.
No, not at all.
They were absolutely superb players individually, but also as a partnership.
Yeah, I saw the highlights for City versus Arsenal with Henry's goal. He looked like he was causing all sorts of problems, and where he tried chipping it looked like it must have been 40 odd yards, and it bounced off the bar. So he was some sort of player. He was unreal. In fairness, you can't really say fairer than that.
No, exactly. You try and talk Andy O'Brien into marking him, and but then that leaves me with Bergkamp, which is not a lot better. Yeah.
No, it's a rough day at the office either way when you look at it, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we stayed up and against all the odds, and I think we were all shocked at that. Dad's Army had just done the impossible. I think it was the lowest points tally in Premier League history of staying up at that time. But we've done it, so happy days. And we go into summer, and we start making all these big name signings and looking forward to the new season. If you'd have been able to look back in hindsight and gone back on it again, and judging how it's all gone for City since staying up that season, do you kind of regret scoring that goal?
No, No, you can't regret something like that. Uh, a lot of the things that happened in the summer were obviously out of my control.
Yeah.
Uh, when people think of the 6 weeks of madness, that's totally out of my control. But what happened over the course of that season, the effort that everybody put in culminated on that final day, and people want to talk about that final day and that goal. But this was about an effort of 30 people or so over the course of a season in terms of a playing and management staff. And there can't be any regrets about fulfilling your aims of that season against the odds, and laying a platform and laying the opportunity down there in front of the club to try and establish themselves in the Premier League. I'm sure there's a lot of people who would look back and obviously, statement of the obvious time here, would regret what happened in that summer. But no, not in terms of scoring that goal, and it's not about that goal actually, because I think we'd have stayed up with a draw actually in the end. But it's about, do I regret playing a part in staying up? No chance. No.
We all wanted it, but hindsight, obviously.
Yeah.
Do you think things might have been different if we'd have gone down?
Well, I know exactly where you're coming from with the question, because if the club went down, you'd have thought, hopefully keep a squad together, build a little bit still, and maybe even get back up the season after. Who knows? And then who knows what would have happened in terms of learning lessons and establishing themselves there. It would have certainly been a different future and for the club. And there has to be some regrets because of what happened. And what happened in the 6 weeks after we stayed up. To an extent, the club is still paying the price for that.
100%. I totally agree with you. So, like, in the dressing room, obviously 6 weeks of madness is going on all around you guys, and it's affecting you personally as well. It's not just about the club and the fans. This is your guys' jobs and livelihoods and everything that it's all going to end up affecting in the future. Did it affect you guys in the dressing room too much, or when it was all happening? Like, did you have any resentment to these massive wages that were being paid to like Sir Carboni and whatnot?
I think there are different aspects to that period of time. Number one, for me, when people talk about the 6 weeks of madness, they think of big money signings coming in. The biggest mistake the club made was letting Paul Jewell go. I mean, no doubt about that. Paul was obviously instrumental in getting in the Premier League in the first place. He was instrumental. He was a leader in us staying up. That was success. So, and I think that I spoke to Paul a few times afterwards, and I think that what he would have been looking to do was build on what we had in place.
Yeah.
And this is no disrespect to the signings that were made. There would probably been different players coming into those that were actually signed, because Paul would have looked to have kept the strengths of what we got and then built on that. I think, again, people talk, as you did, about the money side of things.
Yeah.
I think the issue with the players coming in that did come in, there's no criticism of them. It was too much of a sea change for the whole squad. We'd stayed up playing one way. Yes, we needed new signings, etc., to improve the quality. But the players that came in, they'd be used to playing a totally different way and wanted to win games in a totally different way to we did. So you end up having a sort of imbalanced squad. How were we going to win games? We had a really clear picture in that first season. Okay, we just managed to win enough. But I think in that second season, then we didn't really have that identity, if you like, to say this is how we're gonna win a game over the course of a season. It looks reasonably bright at the start when we got the result against Chelsea. And there are a number of things that happened as the season goes on that we just didn't have enough of a clear plan, if you like, as a squad and a club.
No, I probably tend to agree with you there. The players that came in, they didn't seem, from the outside looking in, they didn't seem like the sort of grafters. I'm not saying they didn't graft, but like the team that stayed up, you all put in 110 every week. You know that you were leaving everything out on field, and without naming names, but you've got these more exotic players that may not be used to digging in so much. So it kind of affects everything, doesn't it?
I think some of those players were used to winning games with total football, shall we say, use that terminology, whereas that Bradford squad wasn't going to win games that way. And so that was, it wasn't for me a case of people not willing to work. It was how are you going to do it? Some of the players wanted to win and used to winning by out footballing other teams. Maybe the squad was as a whole wasn't built for that. And I think that was probably the biggest issue that second season, that there wasn't that clear strategy, if you like, from a club as how we're going to go out winning games.
No, that's fair enough. So your career is so long with us. I mean, you've been through so much with City. So we'll run through quite an injury ravaged season for you, wasn't it? That second season.
It was, and that was why I said earlier, when most of the things that happened in that summer of madness were out of my control. When in the Liverpool game, when I haven't got a clue how to celebrate properly and I dive after I score, well, I'm quite happy that the camera was quite close in, because my shorts came down, because I got cycling shorts on. My shorts ended up round my knees, but I had the cycling shorts on because I got a groin problem, and we didn't take the right course of action in that summer. I just rested up, hoping that it would right itself. Hindsight's a wonderful thing, by the way. And given me time again, and that's one thing I would change. I would have an operation then, try and get it sorted. But really, the start of that season, I think I played the first dozen games or something, but I was playing injured, and then just as management changed, it went totally, and that was the real start of big injury problems for me, and I wasn't right again then for quite a long time, trying to come back. He kept breaking down, and it's pretty serious stuff. And I was at Bradford for 12 years, and it was close at sometimes to being more like 3 or 4, because it could have been the end of my career. There's a few points where that was quite close, really. So that's one thing I would have changed about the summer of madness there.
So how, obviously being on sidelines for so long, how do you deal with that as a player? Because this is your life, this is your livelihood, and you live for going out on a Saturday afternoon, and all of a sudden that's being taken away from you because of this injury or this series of injuries. How do you deal with that to keep your head straight, to keep fighting, to keep going and pushing?
It's really difficult. It's really difficult for footballers up and down the country now. It is a tough time. I was fortunate. I think I'm saying how tough it was when I think I signed a 5-year contract when I came. So, there's a lot of players who were injured coming to the end of their contract, and they have the additional worry, if you like, of what is going to come next season. But it's very difficult when the other players go out to train and you're off into the gym again to do whatever you can, or you're off for another operation and you don't know where the end of that road is. But you're just relying on the physio staff and the other injured players, I suppose, and hopefully the ones as well who are still playing, making you feel part of it. That just to keep you going and get through it. But it's tough.
I can imagine. Mental health as well. It obviously wasn't as spoke about even 20 years ago. So were you able to confide in any of the stuff at City, like if you were having a particular sort of like downtime, or was it something that you pretty much kept to yourself at that point?
I didn't. It was a worrying time for me. I'm not saying I was depressed or anything like that, but it was worrying, and it was frustrating, particularly with the season before. You said you play every minute of every game, really you see the team struggling out there on a Saturday afternoon. You just want to be part of it in that second season, but your body won't let you, if you like. So yeah, I was disappointed and frustrated, but I was fortunate enough that it didn't go beyond that, I suppose.
No, that's fair enough. I mean, I'm not sure I'd have been able to deal with it. To be fair, you've got to have a bit of a strong mind for that. So we move on a bit again. So we've gone into administration. Am I right in thinking you was the PFA rep?
Yes,
you were.
Yeah.
Obviously, you've got a very unique sort of like viewpoint on obviously everything that went on between sort of like in terms of all your, I don't want to go into it too much, but your pay and all that sort of things. As the sort of rep for the players, how did you find that? What did that entail as a rep in that sort of situation and circumstance?
Yeah, we in that position, I wasn't sat around the table about the future of the very future of the football club. But I would probably be the first one in the dressing room to find out, what a proposal was going to be and what that looked like. And then I suppose there was a few times then it was up to me to go and have those conversations in the dressing room. And I think that was a time, looking back, where again really difficult. The club. I remember having a phone call on holiday that you've been sacked, your contract's terminated. So then you're on the phone to the PFA. What does that mean? Can the club do this, etc. But I think at the end of it, fortunately, I think we had a pretty pragmatic group of players who realised that. The club was really struggling, and we might need to do something about it now. Do something can mean a lot of different things. We went a lot of weeks we getting no money at all, and then there was a fair few people who didn't get everything that they were owed, I understand. So there's quite a few people who had to take a really pragmatic view of the situation. And fortunately, we talk about the ongoing problems from the 6 weeks of madness that are still there, but at least we've got a club still. And
100%.
It's easy to forget that in it 20 years on, or however it is. But the club could easily have gone to the wall at that point, without the work of a lot of people. Julian's got to be right up there. Julian Rhodes on that list as well. That what he did and the work he did and what their family did and what they risked, I suppose, with the finances. I'm not across the details of it, but he risked a lot for the future of the football club. Unfortunately, we still have a football club to go and support. We can all get frustrated on a Saturday when the result doesn't quite go our way and Mansfield equalise in injury time. But at least we've got a club there to support.
No, I totally agree with you. It must have been tough for you guys as players, because at the end of the day, it's your livelihood, it's your job, and regardless of whether you're doing what you love, it's paying the bills. And when things start going a bit awry, then it must be worrying. When we got relegated from the Championship to League One, you had an opportunity to leave and go to Coventry, but you chose to stay after everything that had gone on. Why did you feel like you wanted to stay? Because nobody would have blamed you at all if you'd have gone to Coventry, would you?
No, I think there was a few times that I could have gone, if you like. Coventry was one that made the press. What I tended to do was go and have a chat to Julian. Certainly the Coventry one, I remember doing that, and just say to him, what is this the best for the football club, or that I go, or is it not, and see what he thought. And that was, he was involved in that decision making process with Coventry, and I think by that time I was I was really heavily invested in the football club with what had happened. You know, we'd seen the highs obviously of the first season, and then the lows of administration. And you know, I had a vision. I didn't want to leave the club in the lurch. Really, I kind of wanted to, if I could, really try and help the club turn the corner and get going back in the right direction. I don't think that ever really happened. Hopefully people will see not through my efforts or lack of effort, but you know, I think the financial implications just kept on gnawing away at the football club. So yeah, that was part of it with the Coventry one, that you know, I had no great desire to leave the club at all, and so yeah, on that occasion decided to, and all other occasions decided to.
That's fair enough. I
Well,
mean,
I've got to say, the one time that I was going to leave was to I failed the medical at Manchester City,
did you?
And yeah, I was going there. A deal had been agreed, and again that conversation, you know, and a good fee was going to be paid. So yeah, I was off there. That was when I think Manchester City were top of the Championship at the time. Kevin Keegan was manager, and yeah, I was going there, but yeah, the old groin problems flared up, and they weren't willing to take that risk at the time.
Fair enough. Medicals have medicals changed much? Of your career spanned 20 odd years, didn't it? Playing. Did the medical process change that much from, well, even now I'm sure you've seen medical procedures in your current role and whatnot. How different is it?
Well, I think I had the one at Manchester City was detailed with scans, etc., and you know, they went into a lot of different tests that I had to do. The one when I came to Bradford was less detailed, so I think it probably changed in that period of time. And my experience of actual medicals was pretty limited because I didn't change clubs that often, obviously. But yeah, the one I had at Manchester City was really detailed and really in depth, and yeah, it found me out actually.
They didn't fancy the groin.
No, exactly. I mean, this was I can't criticise him, because I think after that I had another. It broke down again, and I think after that's when I had to. I think I went abroad. I think it was Denmark from memory to see a specialist out there, and that was the turning point for me and my fitness. They gave me a totally different regime to be following. So that's what sorted me out. So I can't criticise Manchester City at all. They were actually absolutely right, and the medical was right.
Well, fair enough. So we're getting towards the back end of your playing career in this little journey through, and you get asked to jump in as caretaker manager. What was that like, going from being a player and mate? I know you were club captain, so you had an air of responsibility within the dressing room, but going from being best mates to being the man in charge, how did you adjust to that?
Oh, it was totally different. The agreement when I started was I would do 3 games, and we didn't perform badly in those 3 games overall, and should have got a lot better results than we did in the first 3 games. And I think there was some kind of problem then in recruiting somebody else, and so I was asked to do it for a prolonged period. I should have said no, being honest with you, because I was asked to be player manager.
Yeah.
And the way I was finding it is you couldn't really do both. To do all that, we had a very, very small management team, at all that I'm on about the background in terms of recruitment and everything else in terms of sports science and preparation. It was minimal. And so there was so much that fell on the manager in terms of that responsibility. So going out and trying to source players, actually going out and watching games, as well as doing all the training, as well as everything else that comes with being a manager, taking phone calls up until midnight, etc. Then I should have left it at 3 games and gone back to playing, because at that time as well, one of the reasons we were struggling was we'd sold probably the 2 best attackers in League One at that time, in Dean Windass and Jermaine Johnson.
Yeah,
and that played a huge role in the team, if you like, being on the slide, which led to Colin Todd leaving, and effectively having me as player manager also reduced my effectiveness as a player. I didn't play for the first 3 games, and then I thought, need to try and get back in the team, but just wasn't the same. Taking on all that responsibility and workload had its effect. So as well as losing Dean and JJ, effectively lost me as a force as well as a player for the rest of the season. And I think, looking back, then should have just done it for those 3 games and then left it to somebody else. But I took on the challenge.
Did you enjoy the managerial side, putting the player side to the side? Did you enjoy being the manager? Did you enjoy the challenge of trying to put a team of players together to go out on a Saturday afternoon?
Yeah, I obviously didn't enjoy the run of results that we had, but I really enjoyed the coaching and the management, if you like, aspect of it. Where I think looking at how my career went after that in itself really opened my eyes to what first team management could be about. I felt in a lot of ways I didn't really have a fair crack of the whip there, but it didn't put me off totally. But then after I'd finished playing, I was with Stuart for a year on the first team staff, and then a reshuffle at the club, and I was asked to be academy manager and coach the under 18s at the time. And very shortly after starting that, I realised that in terms of the coaching and if you like, the management of people, that was where I wanted to be. That was the point, if you like, where the penny dropped for me, and thought, this is me. I want to be in this youth development environment rather than the first team environment. So yeah, that was the period and the reasoning for the sort of direction that my career took after I was a player.
Well, yeah, let's keep going in that direction. So you're now the director of youth development at the EFL.
Yeah.
How did that come about? That's a big step from small Bradford City academy manager to all the way into the EFL's good books.
I'm surprised at you, Andy. Bradford's small. Come on, it's not. It's not. So yeah, I was 2 years in a row as academy manager at Bradford. I thought we'd done pretty well in that 2 years. Thought we moved the academy on quite a bit, and then the head of youth development, the EFL role came up, became vacant, and we just had a season with Bradford where I think we were close from a first team. We were getting relegated to the National League, and I don't think that the club would have been able to sustain an academy in the National League. It was so I decided to throw my hat into the ring for this role at the EFL. Never thought I'd get it. It was a leading role, and I was quite new to the game, but in terms of developing players, and applied and was fortunate to get it, and from there, almost an internal restructure, if you like, at the EFL led to becoming the director of youth development, I think 6 or 7 years ago. But it's been really challenging. Really, we've come a long way. It's been pretty rewarding when I look back, but it's taken a hell of a lot.
It's been a bit of an effort, is it?
Yeah. If I thought being a player and a manager was tough, then this is right up there at times with it. When I first got the role, the whole structure of youth development in this country was changing. I don't know if it rings any bells with it, but the elite player performance plan, the new academy system was launched just getting on for a year after I came into post. So my first year was about trying to influence and shape that before it started, and then my role since then really has had two aspects to it. One is I manage and lead a team of regional managers. So they're based around the country who go into clubs and support those clubs and those academies on a day-to-day basis, helping and advising them on things that they might be able to do to improve their academies and I was going to say develop better players, but it's not just about that. It's provide a better experience for everybody that's involved in the system. And then the second aspect to it is if you like, on a strategic level, that work really closely with the Premier League and my equivalents at the Premier League, and also with the FA to help develop and shape the whole academy system and the player development processes we've got in this country. So it's not been easy. It's not been straightforward. Been there 11 and a half years and probably done 25 years work in 11 and a half years. That's how it is.
Are you enjoying it though? That's the question.
Well, I think looking back, I said it's hard work, but looking back, I do think that the system, the player development system, has moved on, and I think we have a lot of very talented young players now in this country. We've seen success in the England national team in terms of the main team, but also in the age group teams. They've had an unprecedented run of success. So I think we can look forward with a lot of confidence to success for the England national team moving forwards. And if I played a small part in that, then great.
Of course you have. I mean, some of the things that the young lions have been doing over the last few years has been phenomenal. And I mean, even looking at City's academy over the last couple of years, they've been producing talent, and it's been there's talent being taken up to Premier League clubs. So whatever sort of like things you're implementing at the EFL to help clubs along is obviously doing something right. In fairness,
and there are different outcomes that count as success for clubs. For some clubs, it's all about getting players in their first team, and that's all they're really bothered about. How can the academy help their first team? And we had, I think, the highest number of debuts last season over the period of time that we're able to consider it, which is about 12 years, I think. So the trajectory is looking really good. But then for other clubs, it's about helping to finance the club, the system set up so that bigger clubs have access to talent and can approach players from academies further down the leagues, if you like, and that's success for our League One and League Two and even some Championship clubs. Is the money that they receive and the add-ons can make a massive difference financially to the clubs. It was happening in my time, even when I was playing there. We were talking about the Tom Cleverleys and the Andre Wisdoms of this world, and we talked about the money that Ollie McBurney brought into the club, and then I think there's been a couple in the last year that have brought a few quid into the coffers for the club. So it's not about trading children at all, but it's about this can be success for an academy and can suit everybody. It can suit the young lads when they get an opportunity at a bigger club. It can suit that bigger club who buys that talent, and it can also suit the developing club in the first place.
100% agree with you. So I am aware time is pushing on. We've been at this for a little while now. I don't want to keep you too long, but I do want to talk about current City. I'm sure you've been keeping yourself well appraised of everything that's been going on. What did you think when Mark Hughes signed? Was that a shock to you? Because to me, I was flabbergasted. It came straight out of left field.
Yeah, I don't think anybody saw that one coming. I don't think Ryan Sparks saw it coming, did he? He just, I think he got that email that Mark would be interested, and yeah, normally when a managerial role comes up, I'll have a little look who's been linked and maybe who's in the betting. And I don't think Mark was anywhere, but great excitement around the place, and rightly so. And just really hopeful that, I think as we speak now, just outside the playoffs, so just position for a push, a late season push into at least the playoffs, and who knows, maybe even a run for those top three places. But they do look a long way off. I think it's been, certainly for me, it just seems a little bit frustrating as of late. You're just waiting for that run to really start to really catapult the club up a good few places in the table, but it just seems to a little bit of one step forward, one step back at the minute, and you just want to 2 or 3 results, hopefully get some momentum, new players who are coming over the window, hopefully that get them embedded, and really get some momentum to push on towards the end of the season. They're saying hopefully at least a playoff place.
I think the goal is at the very least playoffs. At the start of the season, we did like our predictions. I said top 3 based on the signings we'd made, but I think one of his issues is we're struggling to finish a game off. There's not enough goals in the side, and I think that's a big problem that we didn't really address in the January transfer window. I'm not sure if you've seen who's come in, who's not come in, or anything. But for me personally, I think we're missing a midfield maestro type player, someone that can affect the game going forward. We've brought in Adam Clayton, who so far looks very, very good and very established at what he does.
Good.
But going forward, I'm just not sure there's what we need. We've got the goal in us, but then we need to be able to finish it off, get that second goal, and it just doesn't seem to be happening.
No, there's a few times in there that late goals against I'm sure if you had them up, cost a lot of points, and that could well be the difference. Hopefully it's not come the end of the season, but yeah, there are a few points down on that. So yeah, fingers crossed they'll get a good run very, very soon.
I hope they do. I'm just not sure I can deal with playoffs. A trip down to Wembley is it's not good for the heart, is it? Let's be honest.
They say it's the best way to get promoted, but there's a lot of stress along that way.
I've got nowhere because of it. That's where it's all going.
Yeah.
No, I'm not going to keep you any longer, Dave. I think it's been great speaking to you. It's been a lovely trip down memory lane, and
it's been a pleasure, Andy.
Like I said, when I watched you against Liverpool, you became ingrained in my mind as a child. As you were one of my heroes as a child, so dream come true for me. But yeah, hopefully we'll speak to you soon. I really do appreciate you coming on, and good luck with everything you've got going on with the youth development. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Andy. It's been a pleasure.